Hi and welcome to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn, and just me tonight. It's actually kind of a late night, wonderful summer night here in Chicago, and I figured I just wanted to kind of do a show. Margaret is actually asleep, so I can't do any huge exclamations like I normally do. As you guys know, I'm always shouting and screaming at the top of my lungs on these shows. But yeah, I just had a desire to do a show and kind of do an old school show. For those of you guys who've been watching for a while, you know that I like to do style specific shows, and I was doing more of those in the beginning. It was easier, you know, there were more styles that I hadn't done, and there's still plenty of those to come. I have a lot in the making still. And I just kind of like to go and review a style and talk a little bit about the style, what it's about, where it came from, and then drink some examples of that style. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. Again, windows open, so if you hear any city noise, it's just how it is. So before I get into the beer, I wanted to throw a couple shout outs out there. Been a while since I've done that, and you guys have been awesome, and there's a whole bunch of new 5-star ratings and a whole bunch of really great reviews, some of the best reviews I've ever gotten. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to Jimmy in NYC, Bconk10, Temin Uzka, John Rubio, and Rick in Michigan. Rick for the audio review. Thank you very much, because now we got a video and an audio. So thanks, guys. We're up to like I don't know, like 45 reviews and 71 ratings or something like that. So that's pretty awesome. Thanks, guys, so much. I really appreciate that. Throw that over there. Okay, so what are we talking about today? I said I wanted to go old school, and that's what I want to do. I want to talk about a style that I think is a little bit overlooked, and maybe just kind of has slipped under the radar. Even people who may know the beer but just don't realize they know the beer. I'm talking about German Helles Lager, or Helles Lager, sometimes called Munich Helles Lager. And I've got a couple examples of it, and I just want to talk a little bit about this beer. So I've talked a lot about Helles on other shows. I've talked on a couple of the Pils shows that we've done, and also on the Dortmunder shows. I've kind of used what those beers taste like and the profiles of those beers in comparison to Helles. So what is Helles? Helles is a very kind of interesting beer. It is a light, medium-bodied, it's a light-colored. Helles means light, Hell means light in German, and it's a light lager, but it's light in color. It does not have anything to do with light-bodied or light calorie or light alcohol, like those kind of, like light means in America. In fact, this beer is typically a little bit higher in alcohol than your typical American adjunct lager, like your Bud, your Miller, or something like that would be. You know, you're getting up over 5% often. And it's a light-bodied beer, or a medium-bodied beer, light in color, very subtle beer. It is a malt-forward beer, so where Pilsner is accentuating the bitterness and the aroma of the hops, and Helles is accentuating the wonderful malt character with low bitterness. And then you have Dortmunder, which I did a show on. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it, which is right in the middle, all about balancing both of those flavors. And Helles is a very regional beer. It's regional to Bavaria, which is in the southeast corner of Germany, bordering on Austria is to its south, and to its east is the Czech Republic. So, you know, a very lagery area of Europe right there. And in Bavaria, Helles is a huge beer. It's very popular, especially in the summer. This is the classic kind of beer garden summertime drink. Nice, light, refreshing, and it's as popular as Pilsner is in Bavaria. Excuse me. The funny thing is, it's almost non-existent anywhere else in Germany. I mean, it is a Bavarian beer. And it's kind of weird because we can get actually a lot of Helleses, and people who've probably had them probably think they're just drinking Pilsners or just a regular old, you know, American style Pilsner maybe. So that's kind of the history of Helles, or that's a little bit about Helles. I'll get into the history because I have the first Helles ever. In some of these newer styles, you can actually find the originator of the style. Like when we did Bohemian Pilsner, I had Pilsner Urquell on. So now that we're doing Helles, I'm having Spaten München Hell, or just Spaten Lager as it's called here. Spaten is the first Helles lager, and it's actually the first lager brewer, right up there with them. This beer is from the late 1800s, or it was originally created in the late 1800s as a direct response to the popularity of Pilsner. This Bohemian Pilsner was all the rage. Before that, Germans were drinking Dunkel or dark lager, and they were just trying to do something with a light beer. They're having a lot of hard time with it because of just the natural water of Munich, and it took them like 50 years or something to come up with something that was right, and this was the result, and it went over like gangbusters, and they've been drinking it ever since. So the one issue I don't like about this beer is obviously it's in a green bottle. That means you can get them to be skunky, and although a lot of people in America come to like that, I personally do not. If you do, that's cool. If you like skunky beer, that's fine. It is not how the beer comes out of the brewery. It is something that happens to the bottle when light hits it. It interacts with the hop compounds and creates a skunky flavor. It's not about going hot or cold or anything like that. Skunking is from light and light only, and it can happen from fluorescent lighting. So if you pull something from the cooler in your liquor store and it's sitting right in front of there and just kind of glaring at that beer, sometimes what I like to do is kind of pull it out, take the one behind it, and put it back, because it can get skunky, especially in a green bottle, which doesn't really block any of that light. So anyway, how old is this beer? Okay, so this beer is, I'm trying to figure out how old the beer is. It's from March, so this beer is probably 4 months old would be my guess. So not screamingly fresh, not old either. This is a beer that you ideally want to get as really fresh as possible. But you know, 3 or 4 months isn't going to kill the beer. So we've got the Spaten here. I've chilled these beers down quite a bit. You want to drink them pretty cold, not freezing cold, but you know, nice and cool. Maybe like a white wine temperature, even a little cooler maybe. So something's going on. Oh, someone's AC just kicked on. Anyway, brilliant light gold beer with a nice little foamy head here. The nose is going to be subtle. You're not going to get a lot on the nose in these beers. A nice little bready character is about all you're going to get. You're not going to get a lot of hops. It's all about the malt and just a nice, light, easy drinking beer. So I'm getting a little bit of bread, maybe a little bit of like a crackery component to it, and a little whiff of like a minerally, sulfury scent as well, which is very typical of these South German beers, the Munich water. And I personally love it, and I look for it in these beers. Very nice, yeah. Like a kind of a sulfury cracker. All right, so not skunky at all, which is nice. We got lucky here. Very light, very easy drinking. Beer's a little old. I can taste a little bit of oxidation in this beer. Not a ton. Still goes down real easy. I'm not really getting only just the faintest hint of hops in there. It's definitely that kind of floral German hop. Just kind of balances out the malt very nicely. Almost no bitterness either. I do get some of that minerality and just a hint of bitterness, but I mean the tiniest hint, just enough to keep this beer tasting nice and dry and crisp like it is. It's got a medium mouthfeel to it, and it's very well attenuated, so it's going to be a dry beer overall. It's not going to be sweet. Munich Spaten Helles, the original Helles, a classic beer. This one is a little bit past its prime, and it's probably been pasteurized. In fact, I'm sure it is. You know, this is a beer best served from the source, I am sure. I've never had it. Or on tap. You know, a lot of these beers are meant to be kind of quaffed. So what am I going to give this beer? I'm going to go 89 for this particular bottle of Spaten. Really nice, easy drinking beer. I would just like to get it a little bit fresher. Okay. Moving on. We've got the, hold on, I've gotten corrected last time. Let me see if I can say it correctly. Weinstefan Original. This is the oldest brewery in the world, coming up on 1,000 years old. Also the place of one of the most renowned brewing academies in the world, and in fact I think it's the only, I might be the only, there might be one other place in the world where you can actually get your doctorate in brewing. And these guys know what they're doing. We've had them on in the past. I think we've had their Doppelbock on, as well as their Hefeweizen on as well, and both of them are great. This beer, again, it's a little bit hard to tell. It's older than the Spaten. This is actually from 2011. Now we're in July. I think it's towards the end of the year. So we're looking at like 6 months old, 7 months old, something like that. So a little bit older, I think. It's very hard for me to read some of these bottling codes, but I do my best. Again, this one I believe is actually even lighter than the Spaten. It is very, very light straw, crystal clear, again, with a nice kind of a dollop of foam at the top here. So this beer doesn't have that same minerality or sulfur note to it. I'm getting a little bit of oxidation here. I'm getting a little bit of a sweet malt, but it's starting to teeter towards a little bit of a honeyed tone to it. I'm not getting any cardboard, which is nice, but not bad. No hop at all. Very, very subtle beer. And the thing with this such subtlety, these beers are incredibly hard to brew. Any sort of defect that you could easily hide in an IPA or even a pale ale behind all those hops, or in a stout or a porter behind all that roast, are going to be glaringly obvious, even at much lower levels than you could get away with in a porter. So nice. So again, touch of oxidation, but really holding up well considering the age. Nice and bright on my mouth. Just enough of a body in there to not make it feel like you've got, you know, something very watery. So it's got a little bit of heft to it, a little bit of weight in your mouth. Very, very nice and clean. I've got that kind of crackery, but also like just a hint of something kind of maybe lemony there as well. Just a bit of like a touch of fruit from the malt, nice and light. We got a fire in the city of Chicago apparently. A little bit more carbonated as well, which it gives it a nice kind of scrubbing and refreshing feel to it. I like this beer a little bit better than the Spaten. I would love to have this beer a little bit more fresh. I think this could really be a stellar beer, and it's a beer that both these beers you can find. Just go to freshbeeronly.com. You can look up information on the bottling dates. These guys have little bottle codes on here on the back. So just learn how to read them and it'll really help you. What am I gonna give this beer? I'm gonna bump this one up to a 91. I think it is a good beer. Both these beers I think could go easily into the, you know, mid to lower 90s or maybe higher if a little fresher. And hey, at the source, you're talking world class, I'm sure. So very, very nice. So I mentioned earlier that you guys may have had a Helles before, but just not have known it. And this is kind of the beer I was thinking of. I was very deliberate in the beers I got. I needed to have the Spaten because it's the first, and the Weichstephan because it's, you know, the original or the oldest beer brewery, I should say. And they make some darn good stuff as well, especially the classic styles. And the Hofbrau. So if any of you guys have been to the Oktoberfest in Munich and sat at the Hofbrau house at the big beer tents there, the beer you most likely were drinking was not Oktoberfest beer. It was Helles from the Hofbrau original. This is a Helles lager. So let's try it. Another green bottle, unfortunately. I am very sorry about that. It's just the style and it's what people like. You know, big ups to Weichstephan. They know that you got to put this stuff in brown bottles, but one way around it is on tap. Really no idea, could not decipher the bottling code to save my life. No clue. So don't know how old this beer is, but I bought it from a place where I trust that they move through the beer, so that's the best I can do. Hofbrau in Munich. These bottles are, I mean, look, this label's just like coming right off the beer. Because I've cooled these beers down and it's kind of warm now, and you know, they're sweating. So, I don't know, just thought I'd mention that. It was kind of slimy. I'm gonna stick it back on. Nasty. Now it's upside down. What's it say, I wonder? Whatever. So Hofbrau, Munich, as well as Spaten. In fact, they only serve beers from Munich at Oktoberfest. So maybe you didn't know that. Never been there, but that's something on the bucket list for me for sure. Wow. I mean, this is the clearest so far. Just absolutely sparkling clear. Unbelievable. I mean, I can see my thumbprint, my fingerprint through here. And a nice looking beer, a little bit more head than the others had as well, and a hint darker. I mean, these are still very light straw colored beers, but this has a hint of gold to it, and really just a nice looking beer. The best of the bunch so far. So I'm not getting any oxidation, which is nice. I'm getting a really nice bready, crackery smell to it. Just the faintest whiff of some of that minerality or sulfurous tone to the beer. Just a hint. I mean, it's really like, so in some beers how you have the malt with a nice little accent of hops. Here I'm having the malt with a nice little accent of sulfur. It's not like a rotten egg. It's more just like a nice rocky minerality to it. It really is nice. Not really getting any hops, but you really shouldn't in this style. Okay, so very nice beer. I like it as well. I mean, these are just so refreshing on a day like this, or on a night like this. It's kind of late. I think it's coming up on 11 p.m. I think this might be the latest I've ever recorded. Just really, really good and crisp. I've got that bready, crackery, flavor, just enough of a heft to the malt bill where I'm feeling like I'm drinking something. It's not just water like you're getting with some of these American style light beers. I'm not gonna lie, I can tell this beer isn't the freshest either. I'm guessing it's somewhere in the territory of this, you know, 4 months old, 5 months old, 6 months old, something like that. You know, and it's been pasteurized, I'm sure, and it does deflate from the beer a little bit. I like it. I'm gonna go right around with the spot in about 88, 89, something like that. But you know what? These beers are really meant to be drank out of big tall glasses on a hot summer day and just drank in big kind of gulps, and that's what it's about. I mean, that's what this beer is for. You might have to go out and search for these beers a little bit, but I think if you're someone who does appreciate subtlety, you might really enjoy these types of beers, these Helleses. Find one that's locally made. Find one local to you if you have a brewery that is specializing in German lager styles. Or find a fresh batch of this, or find it on tap. Sometimes those kegs are unpasteurized, and man, they can taste exceptional. I mean, just really, really world class, and I mean regardless of style, a good German lager. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm saying, you know, try to find one local, and so on and so forth. So that's exactly what I did with my last beer. This is a Helles from Three Floyds, right here outside of Chicago in Munster, Indiana. This is their July seasonal, and I think it hit the shelves in the last couple days. So this is about as fresh as you can get it. Brown bottle, thank you guys. No bottle dating, no thank you guys. And this is really so anti to what a lot of people associate Three Floyds with. They associate them with huge flavors, big hop profiles, massive dark stouts, but you know what, these guys could also be traditionalists as well. They do traditional English ales, and they love themselves a good German lager. In fact, one of their year rounds is a Dortmunder called Jinxproof, but this is their seasonal, and it's a Helles. A little disclaimer here, this bottle is $9.99, and I don't think Helles should necessarily be bought in $9.99 bombers. I think it should be bought in 6-packs or maybe on draft, and that's typically how I buy this beer. I buy this beer, Gorchfock, on draft when it is around, when it is in season. But I can't really do that for the show, so I broke down and did something I have not done in years, which is buy a bottle of Gorchfock. So but I wanted to show you guys how, you know, I typically would want to be drinking a German Helles. Bear with me here while I pour my beer. I'm not really doing it as scientifically as you know, I did it in my how to pour a beer little tutorial, but it'll work just the same. So Gorchfock is actually the name of a famous 3-mast German sailing ship that I think was captured or something during one of the world wars, 1 or 2, but now it has come back, and it's kind of a point of pride. I think they use it as a sailing vessel now, because I remember thinking Gorchfock, that sounds a little bit dirty. And they do have a big picture of a ship here, and a 4-armed skull with wings holding barley. Very Three Floydsian. So anyway, let's get to this beer. I'm gonna wipe off my stuff here, my little condensation, and let's hold this beer up. I mean, look at that. Crystal clear, absolutely wonderful pale gold color, a little bit darker than straw, nice rocky head to it. That is how you want to have a Helles lager. Let's see. I have not had Gorchfock this year. I have not had this beer in a year. You know, beers can change. So how is this beer smelling, and how's it doing? Have not had it this year. So first thing I'm noticing is the malt is popping out at me. It's incredibly bready, much more so than these. In fact, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not getting any sort of estery flavors as well. There's so much aroma here from the malt that I want to make sure that it's not, you know, some lager yeast putting out some esters it shouldn't. I don't think it is. I just think it's a wonderful bready quality. Hints of fruit in there, but I think they're malt-driven fruits. Let's see, it might be easier to tell on the palate than it is on the nose. I'm not getting that same minerality that I was in some of these beers, and again, no hops, which, believe it or not, I almost can't believe that from Three Floyds. Yeah, no, that was not fruity esters at all. Man, it's almost like you're biting into a homemade loaf of white bread here. Really a fresh baked. I mean, just wonderful texture to this beer. Medium mouthfeel to it. It does have a hint of that minerality. Not enough of that sulfury aspect to it to actually come through in the nose, but you get it in the back end. It's very, very lightly bittered, so it really just kind of ends very gently on your palate. So when you're drinking it, the first thing you notice is kind of that big bready punch, and then you notice that nice creamy mouthfeel that it's just sitting in there. The carbonation is, you know, so-so. It's not very high, it's not very low. And it ends with just a really nice malt sweetness, very faint sweetness, and very faint bitterness. Very much in harmony. I'm using very a lot, but really excellent. Yeah, it's excellent. This is what I want a Helles to be. I'm not saying that Three Floyds can do Helles better than Spaten. I'm saying this beer is about getting it fresh, okay? I went into a store and I had to just buy what I had. Typically when I'm trying to get a beer like this, or a beer where dates are important, I wait until it's fresh and then I buy that beer. I don't necessarily just buy it when I feel like having it, which is a shame. But this is how you want to have a Helles beer. This is head and shoulders above the other three. Although, like I said again, you know, if you get it fresh or if you get it on keg, that's another story. This beer is excellent. I mean, this is a phenomenal beer. About as good as an American lager as I can remember having. Just excellent malt character, so subtle. You get just the faintest hint of some of herbaceous German or continental Europe hops here, but everything, there's not a flaw. It is so clean. I'm going on and on, I'm sorry guys, but this beer is really, really excellent. I'm gonna go 96 with this beer. This beer is world class. It is excellent for the Helles style. There you have it, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. I was rambling a little bit here, but like I said, I wanted to go old school. I wanted to geek out a little bit about a somewhat obscure style of lager, one that's overlooked a little bit too much, if you ask me. And it's good drinking, and it's really good on a nice summer day. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If I piqued your interest, go back and look at some of the other lager styles I've done. Just do a search for a lager on the site and it should pull up a whole bunch of stuff. I've done a few. And I've got more coming. In fact, I just realized that I did a show a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago I should say, that I forgot to put on the air. So I'll be putting up a lager show from a little while back. But until then, that's about it, guys. I had a blast all here by myself. Hopefully you had a blast too watching me. Maybe you had a lager sitting alongside with me. I think that'd be a nice accompaniment. So, guys, thank you as always. Keep the comments rolling in. I really do listen to them. It really does paint what I do next and how I approach the shows in the future. You know, I do read every comment. I do read every email. So send them to me, please. I always enjoy getting them. You can also hit me up on Facebook. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna top my beer off because I certainly feel it's the case this time. I've got some great beer to drink, and hopefully you do too.